Yeah, see, she was going to have to tell me.
And
Mhm.
we are recording, and now Deborah will make you a co-host, and all those requests will be held.
Anytime anybody asks anything, I'll absolutely do it.
Well,
Okay.
welcome everyone to my favorite Tuesday of the month. And I hope after today, it will be some of your favorite Tuesdays as well. It's good to see some returning faces and new faces to our 360 Exchange. Um, it is an honor to be able to co-present with my dear Deborah Turner. And I'm going to say it at the beginning so I don't have to say it at the end. The only reason that I co-facilitate this is because Deborah is the co-facilitator and I adore her, and we have a great time. So today's questions, as Deborah said, are about growing leadership from within. And many of us on this call that are volunteers, are volunteer leaders, whether we identify that or not.
Right.
And I think the mere fact that we step up to volunteer means that we have that leadership spirit. So, in that vein, my first question is, and before I do that, can I just see a show of hands of our staff partners who are here today? Either a virtual hand or a real hand. I see two virtual and I saw a couple, but we have a couple of pages here. So thank you, staff partners, for joining this conversation. Thank you. I see the thumbs up and all that. Thank you, because this conversation is meaningful because we do have that exchange between volunteers and staff. And for the rest of you who I'm guessing are volunteers because you didn't raise your hand as a staff member, thank you, my fellow volunteers, for being here, because this is probably one of the most engaging conversations because we do learn from each other. Volunteers who have had hundreds of combined years of experience doing all kinds of things before we came to AARP is what's valued by our AARP staff members and what's valued by our community that we serve. So I just want to kind of put that plug in, that we know that we're valuable to AARP. We know that our skill sets are valuable. And because we step up to volunteer, we are leaders, whether we want to call ourselves that or not. So, my first question is, and I'm putting it in the chat so you can read it too. What indicators suggest a volunteer is ready for leadership, even if they don't think or see it yet? Yes, Baron.
Okay, now that I'm unmuted. In my head, it's all about demonstrating proactive steps that are not necessarily given you or guided by somebody else, but in fact, you take on by virtue of a need you see to fill. In my experience over the years, that talent, that behavior, really, I think, gives others a spirit of wanting to do the same. But even if it doesn't give them the spirit, it helps you proceed to understand, why did I do this? What did I believe I was bringing? And is this going to be a benefit, or do I need to alter the way I see it? So I think anything proactive that one brings is definitely one of those indicators.
You are absolutely right. And the beauty of that sometimes is people know that. The challenge to that, on the other hand, is that sometimes, because it's something that we do naturally, we may not see in the grand scheme of AARP world that it is a leadership skill. And so, just an acknowledgement, whether it be just a small acknowledgement that, that's really great contribution to the team. We need that. And if that's the only thing that you want to do, we will take that and we will take it and appreciate it. So thank you, Baron, for contributing that. Elizabeth?
So, because I find sometimes people um, hang back a bit, even though they're very interested and engaged in something. So, to me, that connection to the work, that if somebody then asks them, either another leader or someone from the staff says, oh, we could really use your help with this, they'll often leap to it, but they won't necessarily start there because they think, well, maybe nobody's asked me, so I'm not sure I'm ready. I think if we see somebody with that kind of interest, we should try, reach out and see if they respond positively.
And that is a very subtle invitation to do what we enjoy doing. It's an opening that some of us need and some of us don't know that exists. So thank you so much, Elizabeth, for sharing that. Mary.
So I just want to know, when we talk about leadership, what kind of leadership are we looking for?
Here.
Are we looking for
What's our mission?
someone to
What's
have
our boundaries?
hello?
Uh-oh, somebody is
Yeah.
translating.
We
Okay.
got it.
Go ahead. Okay, so are we are we looking for someone that we can go and put a title that says lead? Or are we looking for a volunteer or someone who says, hey, I'm interested in this event, or they may not even say they're interested in their event, but they have but they have an interest. And so they go out and they get all the information that's needed for the event. I guess I get a little I'm just confused only because, and I'm asking this question because I hear the term lead or leadership a lot. And I just want to know what our AARP has in mind when they use that term. Are they looking for somebody who has that specific title, or are they looking for a volunteer who may not have that title but wants to go and get the logistics for an event and just that one-time shot, or maybe do it 2 or 3 times a year?
That's a very great question for clarification, Mary. I have an answer, but Amber, do you have your hand up because you have an answer?
I do. I would just share from my staff perspective, that there are project leaders, event leaders, and then there are people leaders, team leaders. So I am always looking for both.
Very good.
That's my answer.
That's a great answer. And
I see 2 of our people leaders here today. So thank you for being here.
And I will add to Amber's thing that's why Amber's such a good leader, because she's always looking for people to fill every spot possible.
And I think to Terry's comment, every spot possible that's filled is an important spot. And whether or not you identify as a leader in that spot that you fill, and whether or not being identified as a leader is important or not important, it's a valued role. So in some instances, it's necessary to identify a lead person because they may have to be, the project or the people lead so that everybody knows who to talk to. But in some instances, there may not need to be an identification of the leadership role. It just is. I'm going to go to, is it Janine?
It's Janine.
Janine?
I think I'm missing an E on my
Okay.
name.
We'll take care of it for you.
Well, thank you. I am from AARP Massachusetts, and what I like to share, it especially took off this year. I've been here, it's 2 years this month I've been here. So for us, leaders, we have different leadership roles, whether you are a leader for our Speakers Bureau. And what you do is you set up and you schedule time for our speakers to go out to different events. And our lead volunteers we have lead volunteers for tabling and different levels of volunteers for our tabling. Our lead volunteers actually show up as staff, right? And so that we don't have to show up. So we have created a training manual and a tabling manual that goes along with the scheduling for our lead volunteers, and we've made a template for them. So once we get an event, it goes to the scheduler, and the scheduler gets the lead volunteer, and it just goes on. And we're really trying to make sure that by this time next year, hopefully is self-sufficient and is running on its own. The only thing, during this time that we are finding out are like, the things that don't work and the things that do work. But I think every state has the opportunity to make their volunteers what they want. And sometimes giving people a title makes them more interested in it also. That's all.
That's a great response. Thank you. And great clarification. Felicia.
Hi, everyone. And from my perspective, I'm retired now, but before I retired, my perspective of leadership is that you think beyond your own role. Because when people trust you, teamwork makes the dream work. And what that means, well, a lot of things, but you can handle conflict without the drama, because there tends to be a little drama. You can make decisions most times without permission, and that's tentative. It just depends on if you're working with a board. Some things, I was in a grants administrator position as board liaison, so some things I could do, some things I couldn't do with perspective to our grantees that want to use project money for payroll. Well, I can't do that without getting board permission. But many times you can make decisions without permission just because. You can elevate others, not just yourself. That tends to grow those roots you need for leadership. And if there were some outliers, it draws them in, because when you care, it shows. And you want to.
Oh,
I got it.
Thanks. You want to welcome all perspectives, because there's not just one way to do anything. Sometimes we learn, sometimes we teach, sometimes we agree, and then sometimes we agree that we disagree. But as adults, we got to keep it moving and gather all of those thoughts together. Again, teamwork makes a dream work. And then I'll close. You communicate with intention. So what that means, well, say some of the hard things out loud, inspire those thoughts that you may agree or not agree with, but don't make someone feel that their perspective is something that's untoward towards the common goal of the team. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
thank you, Felicia. And Mary, I'm going to come to you in just a moment, but I just want to acknowledge some of the comments that have been made in the chat. Let me see. Activity to participate in meetings are considered leadership, knowledge and experience. It comes up with new activities and ideas, the willingness to share what they've learned. Longevity and consistency is a leadership quality. When a person displays leadership characteristics, it's really apparent. Staff and volunteers always have their eyes open. I try not to pounce and scare people because it's always exciting to see. Yes, you don't want to scare anybody off. Encouragement from others, I think that's already been said, is kind of an invitation in to use those skills, and that they're welcome in their actions and influence. I look to see whether they are a problem solver, whether they naturally influence people. Do they focus on the big picture? Do they show grace under pressure? And are they reliable and take ownership of their work, and are empathic delegators? All of those wonderful things are indicators of leaders. Mary?
Okay, well, thank you. And I'm glad that everybody, gave me their perspective, because basically that was pretty much my perspective. It's just that sometimes I keep hearing the word leader. So I always wonder if there's something over and beyond that AARP is looking at. I know, like in my community, the way it was initially started is that it was volunteer driven. so that everybody kind of had their own little thing that they were working for, that they were in charge of, which has changed and morphed over the years as things do because things are fluid. So hearing all these comments for me, it's heartwarming because for a while I thought I was the only person that thought, we are volunteer led and what do they mean by leader? And you guys have really given me some great insights.
Well, I'm glad that you gained that from this conversation. I think one thing that I overheard in a previous conversation is that some communities are a little bit more comfortable with other designations other than leaders. And I think I recall the term ambassadors, community ambassadors, or something like that was synonymous with being a leader. But that was something that those in that particular state or that particular volunteer community were a little bit more comfortable in sharing. And of course, they were already demonstrating the leadership skills, and they were, they were doing all the things that all of us have already indicated. But that title of ambassador was one that they embraced a little bit more easily. So I don't think it's necessary that we have the big, banner on that says, I'm the leader, I'm the boss of y'all. But I think what's important is if there's a project or coordinator, that's Antoine said in California, we use coordinator. I think it's really important that somebody know who the go-to person is to get some answers. Janine, you're laughing at me. I'm the boss of y'all. I don't want to be anybody's boss. I retired.
Yes, they do. They want to be all of our bosses.
I don't want
Trust
to be
me.
nobody's boss. I'm the boss of Mary, and she's a hot mess sometimes. Antoine.
That is hilarious, Dr. Berry. I wasn't gonna. Well, anyway, when you're talking about leaders, one of the things that I know we look for here in California is like the heart of the individual. Honestly, it's like somebody who, as everybody mentioned, if somebody's just staying back to help out without being asked to is one thing. But on the flip side of that, if someone comes in the door and they are searching or grasping for leadership, that gives us pause. We're going to take a step back and really look and see, what's really going on here, because we have had people try to come in and sell stuff and get access to stuff and all of that in a leadership volunteer type of role. But we do, really do just kind of look at how people are volunteering, how they're serving others, how they're engaging with the rest of the volunteer team and staff, and just kind of go from there.
Very important, both things that you said, Antoine, and it reminded me of something that I heard just yesterday. This is going to sound morbid as I start, but it ends really good. I was at a funeral, so that's the morbid part. But what the good part was that the individual who we were celebrating was described as a servant leader, and he was being described as someone whose leadership was in the shadows. He was not wanting the spotlight on him at any time. He was doing all of the tasks, but the comfort for this individual was to do it in the spotlight, in the shadows. We have a lot of shadow volunteers that want to stay there. Some of them are leaders. And you see their mark on each and everything that they do. Allow them to stay in the shadows. Allow them to be behind the curtains, and do whatever it is they do. They don't have to be out front in order to be identified, and they can still be strong leaders. And sometimes we ebb and flow. Sometimes I want to be on the stage. I want the spotlight on me really bright, especially if I have on a nice shade of lipstick or my best earrings. But sometimes, when I have my headscarf on and having a bad hair day and just don't feel like talking, I can do some fantastic work behind the scenes. And I can do both very easily. So we have a lot of volunteers that do it both ways, and all are appreciated. Every role, no matter how small, is appreciated. And I've said this before in this group. I went to New Mexico and I was reminded by one of our volunteer colleagues that one of the things that she always made sure was that there were clean tablecloths. And that was her role, and that was important not only to her, but to the image of AARP. We cannot have tablecloths that look any kind of way. That's a leader. That's a leader. So let me go to the next question, Deborah, because we kind of
We'll keep
went all
going.
kind of
We'll
ways
keep
with this.
going. Yes.
Yeah, this was great conversation just from that question and great input. Yes, it's important to know how folks like to be recognized too. Thank you. Thank you, Josephine. It is. And sometimes it's just a simple thank you. What behaviors demonstrate leadership potential before someone holds a leadership title? And we've kind of already said some of those things, but if anybody has some more specific things they want to share about that, this is a space open for that. Baron, go ahead.
Yeah, what occurs to me, and I think it fits well with everything we've spoken so far, is this ability to contextualize. And what do I mean by contextualize? For me and in others where I've seen leadership demonstrated, it's not just the say or the do. It's sort of based on what I'd like to call the three-legged stool. It's the what, so what's kind of the core of the thing. It's the so what, which is the why, and it's the now what. So what are we going to do about it? And to me, if somebody can paint that picture to me or contextualize that for me, whatever it might be, including the clean tablecloth, then I've got a much greater sense of how my behaviors and the directions that I should take. But without that contextualization, there's very much a vacuum. And I think we need to expand how we set things up as a leader.
Thank you. Thank you. Daniel shared in the chat, passion is sharing their organizational skills. Yes, I agree. And something that I want to go back to that Antoine said, just being mindful of those who come in really eager to do things, or share things or be the leader. That is kind of a red or a pink flag that we need to be aware of. And especially as we're inviting individuals into volunteerism, we always have to remember that there is an AARP way of doing things, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to elevate something that is our way of doing things. So we can't come in promoting our latest book or our latest, fill in the blank. And sometimes that's misunderstood because of the products that AARP has developed for us so well. And when we're out presenting in the public, especially some of the DIY kits, we are very polished and we have very consistent messaging. And someone from the outside might say, well, I can do that too. And they come in and want to do their thing. So thank you, Antoine, for pointing that out as something that we just need to be aware of. I put another question in. How can reliability and consistency signal readiness for greater responsibility? And again, we've kind of touched on that a little bit, but if anybody has anything else to add to that, we can go ahead and hear what you have to say. Daniel, is your hand up or are you just kind of waving at me?
Okay. Well, while we're thinking about Dr. Mary's questions, Mary Roberge, you mentioned before we got started about your role and in your operation about co-leads. And I think people might be interested in hearing how that works for you.
Okay. So it not only works in the co-lead situation, it actually works within our community because we have, I guess you could say, little subgroups, and we have volunteers who kind of take on, different roles. I've got a co-lead, and I've learned to let go. Okay. I have co-leads in person as well as in the virtual space. And through the past year, basically, I've been working with them to make them feel confident in what they're doing. I've engaged them in conversations about logistics. For the virtual team, I've been on the computer with them, hand holding them until they felt comfortable, like doing a Zoom event by themselves. I had one goal in mind, not only to make them feel, well, I had to make them feel comfortable, but the other goal was so that I could go on vacation. I have a trip that my daughter and I have been talking about for the past 10 years. And I just came back from that about 2 weeks ago. And when I left, I knew that all these things that I participated in were in good hands because all those volunteers, they could handle it. So there is an advantage to letting go. I know sometimes we want to take ownership of something, from start to finish, but there really and truly is a value in trusting your volunteers, in communicating with them and working with them and making them feel confident that they could stand on their own 2 feet. And I had fun.
How about that? Wow. Fun on a vacation.
Yeah, and just for the group, are you staff or volunteer?
I'm a volunteer.
Great, great.
I'm a volunteer, and there's been great staff who have supported me along the way. And I think that's very important too. I think that you have that trust and that communication.
Right, but what you were talking about is someone stepping in and taking over that volunteer leadership, encouraging more people in the role, getting us to what really is one of our next questions that we had. And that was, how can teams create transparent pathways for leadership development? Okay, because one of the things that sometimes happens, or that we've heard, is that, well, how did they become a leader of this? Or how did they get to be in charge of this? Is there something that we can do that lets everybody know that they have that same opportunity?
I would say sometimes peer limits, time limits or assignment or leadership limits, like saying, asking for a commitment for 1 year with always the opportunity to extend, but making it clear that I'm only asking to do this for 1 year, and then opening it to the team for another co-leader.
Okay. So time limits, and in terms of letting the rest of the group know that these opportunities are available. Sometimes people don't want to be leaders, and sometimes they do, but are afraid, I don't know what happens if I raise my hand. So thank you, Amber, for telling us at least we can get to a year. I think I was given a year on this particular assignment for 360. This is our 8th year. I don't know that anybody should listen to Will because that's what happens. Things that expanded. Sorry, that's an aside. But in answer in possible other questions, what kind of training resources do you think that we ought to make available to people so that they can decide their path in terms of leadership? Are there training resources that you've used? Things that you should use? wish that you could have used?
Looks like
Amber, can
Barry
you repeat
has
that
his
question again?
Baron, yes, go right ahead, sir.
I just said, can you repeat that question again?
Oh, Justin, the question was, are there resources or training or whatever that could have been used that you wish could have been used to encourage leadership within your groups? Okay, Justin?
And the comment I was going to make was what I've often found helpful, not only within AARP, but I think in most leadership capacities over the years, has been to bring case studies to a setting. And whether that setting is a retreat, whether that setting is a staff meeting, whatever might be the scenario, I think case studies that you can pull from a number of different places. So I'm not going to begin to say there is the perfect resource, but I think there are multiple case studies within the not-for-profit community, multiple case studies within the corporate community, et cetera, that can help bring a topic not only to the fore and to the surface so that people can discuss it, but it also gives people a chance to say, that's kind of where I'm at, or that's kind of what I feel when I'm going through this. So that you're not saying, let's look at ourselves. It's about turning the mirror around and let's look outside of ourselves and then bring that insight into the thinking and the behaviors that we exhibit.
Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate that, Baron. Justin, I see you've come off of mute. Would you have something to add?
I'm gonna go ahead and throw myself under the bus. I think we can do a
Hey,
we can do a better
my
job at a
friends.
local level of that. I'll be completely honest. I think we can do a better job on a local level like that. It's something that is one of my long-term goals, is to create a better roadmap for volunteers to see from entry to leadership. And that's something that I'm discussing with a state director. But I say that because so far, the best thing ever has been what you guys do for us. So your invite volunteers to leadership, I almost said letting go because that was the original term that you had back in the days. But that and Fast Track has been two crutches that I use quite heavily for volunteers that I see have leadership skills, want a little bit more meat and potatoes, is understanding that, and also helping us as staff kind of see what we need to do. So what you guys do honestly helps. I can speak for me in Nevada. I think it helps a lot of what I wish I could do. I just don't have the capacity to do. So, keep doing what you guys are doing with these trainings because they've been so instrumental. I have many volunteers who take it and they come back so determined to try a lot of the things that they've learned in those classes.
Okay, great. It's good to know. And we hope to continue to provide wonderful opportunities for people. But we know the great work is going on in every state at this point. So it's a matter of trying to share, and that's what this group does, is kind of share that information. And I don't know, is Janine, you're still here. I want to ask a question of you. And that is, a while ago, you mentioned that you'd produced or in the process of producing training manuals for things that you were doing.
Actually, we, with the help of some of our seasoned volunteers that were here before I even became an AARP staff member, with their help this past year, we were able to come up with a tabling handbook, and it's specifically for tabling at small or medium-sized conferences. And they also once they take all of that training, we also have a video that goes along that accompanies that handbook. And once a person takes that initiative, they will receive a certificate that we created that lets them, congratulates them on being a lead volunteer. But it was mostly, honestly, the associate director here, Polly Hunt. She has been instrumental in our volunteerism, the way that our volunteers respond to us. I think it is a direct reflection of her work. and how she works with them, because I've learned a lot working with her, really, honestly,
Oh.
because I don't know how she does it sometimes. If I'm going to be transparent. But she does have a way, and it's it's something you learn.
Mhm, mhm. Well, and of course, in one of the, and this is Miss Ray, Sandra Ray asked this question that I had, and that is the material, a couple of pieces of the material that you have, would you be willing to share it with this group or
Oh,
Miss Polly?
absolutely. I
So,
also
okay.
we actually added that session to our volunteer conference this year. The
Mhm,
lead tabling actually was a session.
mhm,
So I could definitely share those materials with them, and I'd be happy to do that for
okay.
sure. And we had
Yeah,
a PowerPoint presentation on it, so it'll probably be really good to have both of those
that's fine. That's
documents.
fine. Because we can put that in our chatter group for the exchange, and people can pull that information when they want to
Mm-hmm.
see an example of something that could be done. So thank you
Someone
very
is
much.
asking about what is the conference, the volunteer conference? I
Mhm,
have to
mhm.
say, I just assumed everyone had one.
No, no. See, if you've been to one state, as we found, every one state is different. That one state
Right.
is.
Can
So
you
would you
share
like
a
to
link with that
explain,
information?
sir?
Can you share a link with that information?
Uh, share a brief of the conference information?
No, not the specific PowerPoint that you have.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Yeah. And see, if she sends it to me, then I can put it out so that you can get it in a link. Okay.
Yeah, I'll
Perfect.
So,
be
Thank you.
happy to do that.
yeah. Okay.
Terry has
Thank
her
you.
hand up.
Yes, that's where I was going. Okay. Miss Terry?
So, I want to say, first of all, that I have volunteered for many organizations, and I think AARP offers more training than any organization I've ever volunteered for.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, sometimes I feel like it's overwhelming and I can't even like get to it all and read it all or,
Mhm.
do whatever with it. But it's kind of like you don't know what you don't know. Like you're asking
Mm-hmm.
what other training materials and things would you like? Like I just feel like there's an enormous amount available at this point in time. And even if there's not, or I'm not aware of the training, if I just go to Amber, who's my staff person, or you go to the help desk or whatever, there's always somebody to
Mm-hmm.
give you the information that you need
Okay.
if you're not sure. So I just find it to be an unbelievably good organization in terms of offering help and information. And I'm the one who put in the chat, what is the volunteer conference? Because I'm not aware that we have one. Do we, Amber?
Well, I I understand it to every state is different, I guess. And my first volunteer conference was when I started last year. And it was a 1 day conference with, breakfast, lunch, breaks, and we had other different MCOA vendors there, but we had most of AARP information there, like driver safety table. Oh, why can't I think of it now? It's so funny. Like I see them all the time. Advocacy, livable communities, all of those resources, because it's an AARP conference itself. So the volunteers are coming for their own education within AARP and what we do, and just ensuring that we're constantly letting people know how to stay aligned with our mission. But I know that every state does it a little differently. As a matter of fact, I believe in 2027, we'll probably break it down by region, because we would usually have a 1 day conference in a location that most people can get to, and something that wouldn't break the bank, but something that was very comfortable. And again, it was a 1 day event, and I think it ended before 4 p.m. but it was very good, and we had some great feedback from it as well.
So you have tables set up, but in terms of, I would assume the meat and potatoes are the presentations that are going on, since you're taking breakfast and lunch breaks. So
Yeah.
what kinds of things are being presented in the large
we
group,
had-
I would say?
We had different subject matter, fraud, caregiving. Polly, if you're on this call, you can step into.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, I'd be
primarily
happy
the
to.
topics that we do presentations on for Speakers Bureau, is that?
That too. Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
so we break it down in the morning, we go by region. And so we had 5 different regional groups talk about what they're doing in their region. And then once they got a flavor for all the different opportunities in their region, they chose one session for the afternoon. So it would be fraud, Speakers Bureau, livable communities, or we have a new grassroots pilot program that we also highlighted. And then we had a keynote speaker, Scott Frisch came, CFO of AARP. He joined us. And then, as Janine was saying, we had taxi, driver safety, literations, all had tables so people could sign up to volunteer there too. So it's sort of a volunteer expo is how I would consider it, where people can learn about the different opportunities. We also invited all the senior center executive directors in the area so that they could see what programs they could receive at their locations.
great, thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Polly, and thank you, Janine. Thank you, Terry. Now, we have 3 people who've raised their hands. We're getting close to time. Miss Elizabeth Howlett.
I'll be quick and I'll just say, so in some of this I say with the, if you know the size of Rhode Island, we can all see each other in person and do these things in person, but I think regions would have the same ability. So we have what I'll call a lot of times an apprenticeship model. So if there's somebody that we see can move up to do something, we put them with the person who's doing it now. So that person kind of says, yeah, here's what I do, here's how I do it. And that is a really no barriers way to kind of welcome people into taking on different roles.
Oh, right. Thank you very much for that. That's a good summary. Sandra Ray, I believe you had your hand up.
Actually, it was a question around, we were talking about these roles that are informal and that are more formal that might have a title. So Terry and I are both co-leads for our area of Virginia because we're so big. So there's definitely people who are on the CAT meetings who express a little more leadership, but I don't know if there's actually kind of sub roles beyond or below that kind of lead for your area. Is there a tabling lead? Is there a Speakers Bureau lead? Is there, is just so that when we talk to people and transparent about what kind of leadership you could step into, that it has structure. I don't know what other groups are doing.
Quite a variety of things is basically what I'd say. Let's see. Baron, I believe you've had your hand up next, and we're going to be wiping pretty much wrapping up here.
I just wanted to respond to the last comment.
Yes.
What we have chosen to do in the Ann Arbor area, Michigan, we're a fairly new chapter. We're really only 15 months young. Maybe, okay, I'm being a little shy, 18 months. Is we apply what we call a SME, even though the person may not have the SME on their card. I say that with air quotes, but we have a volunteer SME, who is the person willing to take on when we have volunteers sign up for something and reach out after an event to welcome them and find out what they have as interest. We have a technology SME, who's the person who's not only willing to deliver some of the DIY events in the technology field, but also act as the go-to when there are technology issues in our various meetings. So beyond lead, co-lead, we have the SME designation that we give different kind of sort of what I'll call leadership behaviors.
And by SME, you're meaning like subject area experts? Okay.
Subject matter experts, correct.
I was going to say, because I used to be one. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. And believe it or not, as usual, we've reached the end of our time for today. And that's our 45 minutes. Thank you very much for joining us today. Our next meeting is going to be on August 11th. And the topic is scaling volunteer-led events models that work. So I think, we've gotten into leadership today, and talking about that going into volunteer-led events is going to be just carrying it down the road some more. So thank you very much for that. Thank you, Dr. Mary, for being a wonderful co-host. Thank you to everyone who contributed, who listened, who has thought about what's happening in volunteer engagement. We couldn't do this without you. You're
Thank
wonderful.
you,
Thank you.
Deborah. Good seeing
Take care.
everybody. Stay
Take care.
cool. Have a great day.
Yay, yay. Back to Zumba class. All right.
See you next month, everybody. Thank
That's
you.
right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.